What's good, Space Fam? Today we're diving into a wild Am I the A-hole? Story that's got a whole lot of family drama, struggles, and a big twist ending. Buckle up. This one is going to hit hard. So here's the situation. A 23-year-old single mom lives with her 3-year-old daughter in a house where multiple generations of her family stay under one roof. That setup is pretty normal where she lives, and the main reason she hasn't moved out yet is her grandmother. The grandmother is 89 years old, and our storyteller not only takes care of her but was also asked by her uncle, the oldest sibling who pays the main household bills, to stick around so their grandmother wouldn't be left alone. Thing is, even though she could afford her own place, she's got a stable, well-paying job. Living with this family has been toxic. She pays a lot of the household costs herself, covering electricity, sometimes water, groceries for her grandma, and even handing out weekly allowance money to her aunt's 2 teenage kids. She does all this while also raising her daughter alone. The breaking point came one day after she called her aunt out for not buying fruit for their mother. She explained that she could buy it herself, but with a sickly child, she didn't want to risk going out. Her grandmother already receives a monthly government stipend, and her aunt is the one who manages that money. OPR poster, never touches it. She's been fully covering her own expenses and then some. Instead of understanding, the aunt, her uncle, and the aunt's husband all ganged up on her. In front of her little girl, they started throwing insults, bringing up again and again how she got pregnant at 19 and became a single mom. After listening to it for too long, she snapped back. She told them at least she never begged anyone else to cover her family's expenses, and unlike them, she could move out any time and not worry about bills or food. That lit a fire, and another shouting match erupted, with them calling her rude and disrespectful. She took her daughter into her room, locked the door, and in a moment of anger, changed the Wi-Fi password. Since she's the one paying for the internet. Suddenly the whole household was cut off. Later she started doubting herself, wondering if she went too far, especially since her grandma had always taught her not to fight back against elders, no matter what. Fast forward, and here's where things take a darker turn. She eventually discovered that her teenage cousin, the one she'd been giving allowance to, was badmouthing her online. The cousin had borrowed her laptop for schoolwork and forgot to log out of Facebook. Opie saw posts where the girl excluded her from the audience, and then went on rant after rant, accusing Opie of stealing grandma's stipend, of being abusive, and mocking her for being a single mom. Even worse, other cousins from outside the house were chiming in, spreading the same lies. Suddenly she understood why so many relatives had been ignoring her lately. Instead of blowing up about it, she kept her cool and quietly stopped giving allowances. She focused on working harder, saved up more aggressively, and endured the continued nasty remarks in silence. After 5 tough months, she finally reached her goal. She bought her very first studio condo. Before moving, she had a heartfelt and emotional conversation with her grandmother, full of tears and long-buried feelings. In the end, her grandma chose to stay with her other children. That was painful, but Opie knew she had to break free. So, with just a few boxes of clothes, some toys for her daughter, and her computer, she packed up and left. 2 weeks later, she and her 4-year-old were settling into their new home. And she even got herself a puppy, something she'd always dreamed of having. For the first time, she felt free. Free from the cycle of emotional and physical abuse that had hung over her since childhood. Free to live life on her own terms. Now she's rediscovering herself. She's painting again, playing video games, and doing the little things that bring her joy. The stuff she had stopped doing for years. And the most important thing? She realized she was never the villain in this story. She was never the one in the wrong. She just needed the courage to walk away and start fresh. And now she has that. I can only imagine how tough it must be to finally break away from a family that's been abusive. Wishing you and your little girl the best as you move forward. Now onto what someone called a disaster. This one's about a 29-year-old man and his fiancée, who's 28, as they're looking to buy their first place. They've been saving for years and have enough set aside for a modest starter home. The housing market in their city is extremely competitive and overpriced, so even with both of their incomes combined, most properties are out of reach. They don't need much space since they aren't planning on kids anytime soon. Maybe not ever, so a smaller house suits them just fine. That's when his parents came in with a huge surprise. As a wedding present, they offered to purchase them a large 3- or 4-bedroom home in their neighborhood. It's more house than the couple needs and would mean a longer commute to work, but it's a beautiful property with a massive yard for their dogs. They were shocked by the generosity and didn't feel right accepting it at first. His parents are very well off, own several investment properties, and have always treated his fiancée like one of their own, but still, it felt excessive. The parents kept reassuring them. They explained that the house belonged to an older friend who'd lost his wife, wanted to downsize, and didn't want the hassle of listing it on the market. If they bought it in cash, he'd even sell it at a discount, which would help this young couple get started in life. Eventually, they agreed under one condition. They would put every cent of their saved down payment toward the house, and whatever remained would be treated as an interest-free loan, which they would repay monthly. For a while, it seemed like everything was set. But then came the curveball. His parents suddenly revealed their own condition. His younger sister, Claire, who's 26, would need to live with them indefinitely. To clarify, the fiancé doesn't dislike Claire at all. In fact, she and Claire get along well, which is part of why the parents like her so much. Claire has high-functioning autism, what used to be called Asperger's, and struggles to pick up on social cues. She's still living at home, and her parents often worry she may never be able to live completely on her own. Both the man and his fiancée love her, but she can be very hard to live with since she has difficulty handling situations when things don't go her way. When they said this arrangement wouldn't work for them, it erupted into a huge fight. His parents then tried to sweeten the deal by insisting they wouldn't even have to pay the money back. They could have the house free. The couple stood their ground and refused. In the end, his parents told them they wouldn't go through with buying the house unless they agreed to let Claire move in permanently. So the couple turned it down. Now the parents are accusing them of being ungrateful and selfish, saying they put their family friend in a bind for backing out at the last minute, all because they didn't want to share a big house with Claire. To make things worse, Claire herself is upset because she had been looking forward to moving in with them. On paper, it may look like the couple is being picky or spoiled, especially since they don't actually need that much space. But the truth is, it's not their responsibility to take on his sister, no matter how wealthy or generous the parents may be. That's something her parents need to sort out, whether that's helping her live independently or buying her a place of her own. And now for another story. This one comes from a father talking about his son. He says he hasn't seen his boy in 6 years, and to him, that son is as good as dead. Whenever someone asks if they have children, he says only that he has a daughter. He never mentions his son. Why? Because years ago, his son married a woman that he and his wife couldn't stand. On top of that, his son made terrible money choices, ran into financial trouble, and eventually moved back in with them. They let him and his wife stay for 6 months. But things exploded when his wife and daughter-in-law got into a screaming match, supposedly over lipstick, though clearly it was about a lot more than that. The father says he couldn't take it anymore. He asked his son and daughter-in-law to make plans to move out, not that night but soon. That's when his son snapped back that he couldn't legally kick them out, because they'd been living there for more than 30 days, and were considered tenants. The father admits he didn't know that law, but he still believes his son was cruel and manipulative for throwing it in his face. What followed was a drawn-out legal process to evict them, and those months were pure misery. His wife was constantly yelling, the household was in chaos, and he says his son showed his true colors. When they finally left, the father told him never to contact him again, that he was no longer his father. He swore he didn't care if his son was on his deathbed or in need of a kidney, he was done forever. For 6 years, life was peaceful again. But recently things shifted. The daughter-in-law had a baby, and the son called his mother in tears, saying he missed his family. A man explained that his son wanted him and his wife to meet his newborn child. His wife agreed at first, but later admitted she didn't actually want to see the baby at all. She only said yes out of guilt. Now she's pleading with her husband to go with her, because she feels uneasy about the situation. He refuses, saying he doesn't want to see his son or the baby, because to him that child means nothing. The truth is, the husband looks just as guilty here. His wife clearly struggles with her emotions, and instead of encouraging her to seek help, he stood by while she lashed out at their son and daughter-in-law. The young couple had nowhere else to stay. They only needed a short time in the house, but the wife made the situation unbearable and the husband enabled it. They ended up being pushed out. Now the same cycle repeats. His wife suddenly wants to meet the baby, and once again he follows along with her instability. Instead of supporting his son, he stood by as his wife harassed them. Cutting his son off completely is not only cruel, it's damaging. It shows a pattern of choosing his wife's outbursts over being a parent. The blunt truth is that the son and his child may be better off without such toxic influence. The man needs therapy, not excuses. He has allowed his wife to control the family dynamic to the point where he's lost his relationship with his own child. In another story, a woman shared her experience with family conflict. She and her husband, both in their late 40s, along with their 2 teenage daughters, are Jewish but not very religious. They see themselves as more spiritual than observant. Occasionally they attend services, mostly because her mother-in-law has a way of guilting them into going, but their usual way of celebrating holidays is simply gathering at home with family and food. At the moment, her husband's cousin and his family are staying with them while their own house undergoes major renovations. The cousin's family is much more conservative in practice, and that has led to tension. The cousin's children, who are close in age to the daughters, behaved as if the girls should wait on them, which the parents immediately stopped. That already created friction, and other small cultural differences added to it. Things boiled over during Yom Kippur. In their house, the attitude toward fasting is relaxed. Everyone decides for themselves. That irritated the cousin and his wife, but the hosts didn't change their approach. On the morning in question, the 2 sisters were joking around because one caught the other eating the last everything bagel. The elder jokingly teased her sister by saying she would have to atone for it. They play-fought a little, which made their mother laugh. But the cousin suddenly appeared, furious, and shouted at them until his face turned red. He accused them of mocking a sacred day, and the girls ended up in tears. The hosts had enough at that point. They told the cousin and his family to pack their things and move into a hotel. Now extended relatives are pressuring them to let the cousin stay, making them feel guilty, but in their minds, the cousin crossed a line. They had opened their home freely, expected respect in return, and instead got scolding and judgment. Guests should never forget they are in someone else's house and that they owe their hosts gratitude, not lectures. Your daughter's small chest never interfered with the family's ability to practice their religion, and the way he reacted to that comment was completely blown out of proportion. Now on to a much heavier story, a parent asking, "Am I the bad person for admitting I regret having kids?" So here's the situation. Both my wife and I are 42. We've been married for a long time, but ever since having children our relationship has basically fallen apart, to the point that we're in marriage counseling now. We have 3 kids in total. Our oldest is 6, and we also have a set of 4-year-old twins. Yeah, I know what you're probably thinking. First a kid, then twins? People joke that I should have bought a lottery ticket with luck like that. But honestly, what it's meant for our marriage is endless stress, disagreements, and resentment. When we decided to try for just one more baby, we didn't anticipate ending up with twins, and one of them clearly struggles with ADHD and ODD, which has made parenting feel like pure chaos. During one counseling session, our therapist asked me straight out, "If you could go back in time and do it all over again, would you still choose to have kids?" And I answered with complete honesty. I said no. Of course I love my children. I would literally take a bullet for them. But if I had the chance to go back to when I finished graduate school at 24 and completely rewrite my life, I wouldn't choose fatherhood. The truth is, being a dad hasn't been the life-changing, rewarding journey people always promise it will be. For me, the sacrifices have outweighed the joy. Before we had kids, I was happier. I had more freedom. Now I feel like I've gone from being someone who loved life to someone who just endures it day by day. I'm stuck in a job I dislike, just grinding away to provide for my wife and kids, while secretly wishing this wasn't the path I ended up on. My wife, however, didn't take it as the private reflection it was meant to be. She's furious with me, and worse, she actually told our 6-year-old, "Daddy wishes you were never born." That made me absolutely furious, because I would never, ever say that to my kids. Yes, I regret becoming a parent, but I love my children deeply. I would never want to hurt them or make them feel unwanted. And for the record, I only said this in counseling, a supposed safe space where we're encouraged to be truthful about our feelings. Now the situation has spiraled. This confession has blown up into a massive fight. Our marriage is probably beyond saving at this point. And I have no doubt my wife will use this against me in divorce court to try to take full custody, empty our finances, and turn the kids against me. The hardest part is that she just cannot seem to grasp that you can simultaneously love your children and still feel that parenthood wasn't the right choice for you. Those two feelings can exist together, but to her, it's either one or the other. Just to clarify for everyone, I don't have 4 kids, I only have 3. The confusion came from how I worded it. One child is 6, and then I have twins who are 4. English isn't my first language, and I wrote it in a way that probably made it seem like we had 2 sets of twins. Also, when I talk about resenting the twins, I don't mean I blame my wife. It's not her fault. But 3 kids were never part of our original plan, and financially it's been brutal. I've had to work constant overtime just to keep us afloat, and I can't deny that it makes me bitter. As for my child with ADHD and ODD, I wasn't exaggerating when I called him extremely difficult. If you look up oppositional defiant disorder, you'll see what I mean. Constant refusal to follow instructions, angry meltdowns, hitting, kicking, deliberately provoking others, screaming, being spiteful. It's endless. He lashes out at me every single day. It is draining in a way that words barely capture. He's already been expelled from 3 different daycare programs because staff couldn't handle him. Even my parents, his grandparents, refused to babysit. So there's never a break. It's constant, around the clock, and it feels like living in a nightmare. Would I willingly go through this again if I had the option to redo my adult life? Absolutely not. And I don't think most people would, if they were honest about it. That doesn't mean I'm not committed to my kids now. I am. I still show up, I still provide, I still want to be their dad. But if life handed me a reset button, I'd take it. And to be fully transparent, it's not just the kids. If I'm being brutally honest, I also regret marrying my wife. Which is part of why I said, if I could go back to 24, I'd do things differently. Because it's not just about fatherhood. It's about the entire trajectory of my adult life. Different career choices, different relationship choices, all of it. Hearing people online say they understand actually helps. Some parents out there admit they feel the same. They love their children, but they mourn the life they could have had without them. It's more common than most people want to admit. And yes, it comes with guilt. But at least in therapy, I should have been allowed to be honest without having my words twisted and thrown back at me, especially at my own child.